Hi, everybody. We'll be discussing how to significantly reduce costs and optimize cloud spend today. I'm Nick Smirnov, CEO at Hystax, and also we have Max Bezhenko, CTO and engineering manager, who's been running engineering teams for more than 10 years.
Hi Nick, hi everybody. Today we are going to talk about cloud consumption and how to take your cloud bill under control and also reduce it.
Thank you, Max. But before we start, a few words about Hystax. Hystax is a global leader in cloud migration and cross-cloud and hybrid cloud disaster recovery. We have customers on 5 continents and employees in 4 countries. And now building a cloud platform for cost governance and collaborative R&D. Okay, Max, can you please talk to us about what a cloud bill usually consists of?
Yeah, sure. When you receive a bill from the cloud and then go to the details, you see a list of cloud services such as compute, storage, or networking, which you use during the billing period. You might also see positions related to third-party services, such as cost for software from Cloud Marketplace. Some of the bill items are pretty straightforward. When you pay for computer resources and storage, you can more or less predict the range of your spend according to instance flowers and storage size. Some others need more investigation in order to become transparent. Data transfer charges, for example. Long story short, it varies from company to company and depends on use cases. Some may see compute and storage to be the main cost driver. Other companies may extensively use lambdas, voice recognitions, or IoT services. It might sound obvious, but you need to grab some of your recent invoices, select your top three services, and work with them to figure out the best way to optimize. There are dozens of different cloud services, so there is no secret sauce to doing it manually. But in general, as I said previously, compute and storage resources are the top two lines in cloud bills that we see.
Okay, so it's not just about computer resources, but there are other costs which may not be so obvious. What is the standard ratio of cloud services in a cloud bill?
It depends on the use cases. If we speak about enterprises, they still heavily utilize compute, storage, and networking. For compute, it's primarily about VMs, but containers are growing very fast. Enterprises also use cloud native services, but it's worth mentioning that they prefer to run big data, AI, IoT, and other use cases based on third party solutions and do not use cloud native services for that. I think that the explanation is in vendor lock in and internal policies to avoid it. For storage, they use both block devices and object storage. And since the majority of enterprises use multi or hybrid models, they have intensive traffic between sites. Startups are born with new methodologies and they are free of legacy apps and code and they don't use too many legacy resources, but instead they extensively utilize containers and cloud native services. Recently, we conducted a survey, and the majority of our respondents said that on AWS they use RDS, Lambda, and Fargate as their top three services. Even at Hystax, all the applications and services are containerized, and we used EC2 only for Kubernetes nodes.
Great. So it mostly depends on types of workloads and use cases. Okay, and what approaches significantly decrease cloud expenses in your opinion?
The first step in expense reduction is to understand what are the sources of those expenses, how they relate to your needs, and which workloads don't need to be used all the time or being used inefficiently. In other words, list the top three expenses and focus on them. Work with your team to review your resources and check whether all of them are still needed. Create cleanup practices and implement them once a week or once in a sprint. Only an established process can help you to reach stable results. Otherwise, if these are set aside and not attended, the same issues will reappear in 3 to 4 weeks. Cloud optimization tools can also help you to break down costs and build the practice of cloud governance and control for your team. These tools take information about your cloud usage from different cloud reports and allow you to analyze it more effectively while advising on how to spend more efficiently. Of course, these cloud optimization tools also cost some money. Usually it's a percentage of your annual cloud bill.
So, just to summarize, you suggest using cloud optimization tools and strict cloud cost governance and control. We'll talk about that later. But there are some actions IT managers can do on their own to reduce costs. Imagine for a second that I'm an IT manager with a cloud budget. What should I do in order to optimize compute resources?
There are two basic things that you can do to get an immediate effect on your compute expenses. The first one, in many cases, VM resources are underutilized. They have too much flavor relative to their actual consumption. For example, an instance with 8 vCPUs and 16 gigabytes of RAM utilized only for 10 to 15% of its compute potential. You can save several hundreds of dollars if you just reflavor it to a more respectable one. And this is just for a single instance, although I'm sure that you have more than one such instance. Second, if you can forecast your compute requirements to the upcoming months or years, you can save up to 60% of VM costs by switching to reserved instances or by using saving plans. Most of the public clouds offer you significant discounts for paying upfront. Also, you need to know who is using and for what purpose they are using the compute resources. Usually it's done by resources tagging, where you define a cloud resource tagging policy which your team should follow. Those tags are used for different breakdowns, project resource usage reports, and cleanup activities. There are interesting cases when just a simple task to tag resources can already save you some money. You know, People start the resource inventory process and realize that some of them are no longer being used. Some resources may be even left from engineers who are no longer with the company.
Great. So it's reflavoring or using reserved instances that can save up to 60% of VM costs and tagging, tagging, tagging. But if we do it once, how do we ensure that in 1 month or so we won't have the same problems?
There is only one answer to this question. You should go it regularly or assign it to your subordinates. People have a tendency to forget about things that are not in their scope, so if you don't remind them, they will focus on their current tasks. At the end of the day, it's not their responsibility to save money, but yours. And of course, this obviously can't be a manual activity. Software tools always perform more efficiently.
I see. So it's tricky and takes a lot of time to monitor without automation. Okay, let's say we have all the tags set. How can this save us some cash?
Once tagging policies are set and your team follows them, you can create cleanup scripts that will periodically list and remove all untagged resources in your account. Also, it's a good psychological point for your team. If they see their resources, they start to think whether they need them. Tagging brings some order and mind to their provisioning habits. We had the same issues at Hystax before we started using tags for all of the resources. We used AWS for our R&D resources and had several issues when somebody forgot to remove a cluster or shut down the VM, which is what was not needed anymore. As a result, we got a bill 4 or 5 times more than we expected, and basically that was one of the reasons that motivated us to explore this topic and build a project around.
Is it too tough to remove all the untagged resources? What if somebody just forgot to add a tag?
Yeah, it might look too tough and may cause some hiccups at first, but if you look at this from a different perspective, you will see that having untagged resources basically means that you don't know anything about them except the fact that they just inflate your cloud bill. You don't want to pay for something you don't know about and that you don't need, right? So cleanup scripts might not be an ideal cost-saving technique, but it's better than nothing.
Great, got it. So a cleanup script is better than nothing. Is there any way to save some money on storage?
Yeah, the same goes for storage. Both object and block storage need to be tagged. In addition, you can extend your cleanup script with unused volume and snapshot detection in Cloud Block Storage to clean this up as well. Many don't think about that, but snapshots, volumes, and images can cost you a lot. So, as engineers are more focused on running VMs and therefore they may forget to remove unnecessary snapshots, unattached volumes, and redundant images, the tagging should help here as well.
Thank you, Max. Did I hear you correct that we can remove unused volumes and snapshots as a part of a cleanup script?
Yes, correct. Block storage is quite expensive, and lost unused volumes may make up a significant piece of your cloud bill. I suggest you to make it a golden rule. Unassigned and untagged volume should be removed.
Cool. What should be done with object storage? Is there any way to optimize here?
Absolutely. In addition to tagging techniques, you can go for storage tier optimizations. When you use cold storage for data that is not accessed frequently, and also for geographical placement optimization, which will affect your spend on the network traffic as well. I strongly recommend creating a policy on how to use storage resources. One bucket per engineer should be a good starting point. Later, you can just review their sizes and ask whether all the data is needed. It also makes sense to consider whether you should move some data to a cold storage. Public clouds do provide an option for fairly cheap object storage for the data that is stored for a long period of time and that is not used frequently. As a trade-off, of course, there is always a trade-off. You'll get a longer read access time for such data due to the nature of the storage.
Thank you. I heard that network traffic can be a real pain and it's not an obvious expense till you get your first bill. What are the best practices here?
Usually, all network traffic within one region or availability zone of the cloud is free. The same goes for incoming traffic, but any cross-region or outgoing traffic should be paid for, and the amount is hard to estimate. Please be cautious, network costs can be very high. To avoid that, you need to think about cloud regions and data locality of your compute and storage resources to minimize cross-regional and external traffic. You need to collaborate with your architects to identify data locality issues before you scale in the cloud. If you can, simply use all application components in one region. Also, don't forget about CDN services. Certainly, it depends on your application and use cases, but in the majority of cases, your data should be in a closer proximity to your customers than to your engineers.
But do public clouds help you with any cost control and optimization?
Public clouds follow the needs of their customers and offer integrated services for cost reports and analysis. But usually they require that you build the process of expense control and target scheme on your own or use consulting services. They also don't include optimization scenarios, so you need to do this on your own as well. So building proper expenses control using only cost exploration tools from cloud vendors is quite complex and not ready to use.
Cool. Everything that we discussed today sounds reasonable for a single cloud. But what if I use a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud strategy?
It becomes much more complex if you go to multi-cloud. You will need to use different cloud billing consoles with very different feature sets and workflow, and even more complex if you use hybrid cloud. You will also need tooling for on-premises workloads, which will integrate with public cloud's billing. So your time as a manager is doubled at a minimum to both establish the optimization technique and to execute it. I strongly recommend focusing on one cloud first, establishing a process, achieving some results, and only after that trying to populate this on the other clouds that you use.
Previously, you said that just optimization is not enough and there should be cost governance and control. Please talk us through that.
Ultimately, all of these tagging techniques serve as a cost governance tactic. Ideally, or if your resources are properly tagged, you can map every cent in your cloud bill to a specific business unit, team, or project within your organization. It helps you to budget your requirements properly and to control cloud expenses on every level of your organization. All the scenarios we discussed today should work immediately, but their benefits should significantly increase if performed automatically and in real time. It's the same as learning something new. If you don't practice regularly, the result would be less significant.
Okay, Max, let's summarize the steps IT managers can take on now to optimize their cloud expenses.
I would summarize with the following list of action items. The first, identify the top 3 items in your cloud bill, tag resources and implement cleanup techniques, identify and review data locality practices, and finally consider using automation for cost governance and optimization.
Great. Max, can you please tell us whether the platform we're currently building covers the scenarios described?
Yes, sure. We are building a hybrid cloud management platform which is focused on cost governance, control, and optimization. It provides you with immediate optimization scenarios and enables a ready-to-use flow to map your cloud expenses to your organizational structure across all cloud platforms used. In addition, you receive sophisticated provisioning capabilities for collaborative R&D such as basic provisioning, templates, and versioning.
Nice. Thank you, Max. And now it's time for your questions. Okay, so it looks like we have 2 questions right now. So Max, can you please reply to the first one? Uh, does migration to another public cloud help to reduce cost?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's on the one side, yes, it get you a better deal from a cloud, so you can get a significant reduction of your bill. Plus, it helps with inventorying of your current workloads, which is good. But migration project won't help you with the cost control, reflavoring, and other techniques you need to take an action on. So only migration is not enough to take your cloud bill under control.
Okay, got it. So it helps in some way, but it's not like a secret sauce and ideal solution
Yes,
here.
yes, yes, that's right.
Okay, another question we have. Yeah, and yes, to all of our attendees. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll be happy to respond. So the second question: can you please tell more about how to reflavor VMs? How do I know when it's needed or to reflavor? So how to identify the right moment when I need to reflavor any VMs?
Yeah, of course, you need to identify which instances you need to reflavor. You need to take a look on the performance metrics of your VMs, and if you see that CPU and RAM graphs shows you underutilization of this instance flavor, it's time to think about the reflavoring. You should plan a time when you shut down the VM, change its flavor, and start it again. However, identifying these things manually is quite ineffective. So you should consider using some automated process for detection of such instance.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have: does OptScale also works on my on-premises cloud like VMware or Hyper-V?
Uh, we are building starting with public clouds with AWS and Azure, and we are going to include on-premises workloads, on-premises clouds such as VMware or Hyper-V a bit later, but it's definitely on our roadmap. So we're
Yeah.
going
So
to build it.
let me try to reply to that as well in terms of our roadmap. So for this year, our target is about public clouds. So we start with big three with Amazon, Azure, and Google. And later next year, we plan to expand to our Alibaba, VMware, our OpenStacks, and different flavors of OpenStack, and also Azure Stack is in our roadmap. I'm not sure about Hyper-V. For now, we'll be looking at that a bit later, but Azure Stack is definitely in our roadmap. Okay, thank you for the questions, and thank you, Max, for the answer. Another question we have are, this tool has like a trusted advisor in order to receive recommendation for optimized costs and resize VM if it's necessary. So I think just yes, sorry for interrupting. So I think just rephrase whether we plan to provide any recommendations, insights in terms of cost optimization scenarios, best practices, how to use workloads, so yeah, please tell us about that.
Yeah, so we are going to provide you an advisory interface for your existing workloads till the end of this year. With all of this automated scanning for the underutilized instances and other recommendations on data locality and so on. The first thing that you see in our product is the cost governance thing that will help you to make your bill transparent and see how your cloud bill, how your expenses in the clouds map it to your organizational structure.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have are, so who is their profile of the customer for this product? So whom is this product built for?
At the very start in the beta program, our first users is our first user looks like the IT team manager, which has some budget for the clouds and wants to control the expenses, and the other users that we target for are team members of these team leaders. So usually engineers who are using the cloud in their R&D and so on.
Yeah, so just to tell some words about that. So first of all, we target IT managers just to help them solve problem of like cost governance, control their expenses, because like they get cloud bill and they're responsible for some budget and they need to report for the budget. So they need some tooling, some ways how they can control, how they can predict and forecast what their cloud bill would look like next month. So for that, we provide like a tooling, like all the functionality where an IT manager can add his or her team into the product, can create business units, create projects, assign budgets to all the entities. And yeah, so that's the first immediate goal. And the next goal is just to provide their standard functionality for R&D teams. So the standard functionality for R&D teams to provision resources, so they can provision across multiple clouds. They get all the functionality when they can provision VMs, containers, subnets, networks, so all their standard resources they deal with on a daily basis. They can manage and create those resources. So it's a product for hybrid cloud management, just to manage resources across multiple clouds and provide IT managers and budget owners with a way how they can optimize their cloud bill and how they can keep their cloud bill and cloud expenses under control. Okay, so looks like that's it for questions. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. So we'll be here. Yeah. Another question we have. The tool has the possibility to export those cost metrics in order to show them in a friendly way.
Yeah, sure. All of the breakdowns that we will provide in the tool, all of the breakdowns and mappings to your organizational structure, to your team structure, to the projects that you have, will be available for download as a CSV or PDF file. So you'll get the documents for your supervisor to show the information how you spend the company's money.
Yeah, and another important thing. So yeah, you are able to download a report regarding any budget. So any budget, so how it was spent or in the past, or what are the forecasts for the budget in terms of our like analyzing like behavior, analyzing previous provisioning techniques, whatever. So, but also, what is also important about the product that it also, and this is one of their main capabilities that solves a lot of issues in terms of resource management and cost control. It would generate automatically. It would generate regular report regarding our who is owning what resources. So an IT manager and all their engineers in the team would get a report, let's say every Friday morning, or like you can set whatever schedule you want. So they would get a report there. All their resources would be listed, and you'll get like the number of resources, their CPU RAM utilized, and what's the most important part, also information about how much those resources cost are like on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. So an engineer can review that, and all their engineers also can take a look and see how exactly the money is spent. Or okay, any other questions? Looks like that's it. So thank you very much for staying with us today. Thank you, Max. It was a very nice discussion. I hope all our guests got some useful information about how they can like save some money on their current cloud bill, or get some information just to think about and review how they can deal in the future. So please don't forget to sign up for a beta. So it's like free. It would run starting from end of this month. So you can go and sign up. And additionally, all their attendees of this webinar would receive a link to our recent survey report, where we analyze the market, analyze cloud usage, our different behavior regarding like different service statistics. So you'll receive it in a few hours after this meeting. We'll touch base with you shortly, and thank you very much for being here today with us. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.